Hi everybody, just waiting for a few more people to join us online. Hopefully you enjoyed yesterday's illustration workshop. Let me know if there's anything you'd like to see illustrated in the last 3 days that we've got. Today we're going to focus on pottery. Okay, so hi everybody, welcome to day 2 of the archaeological illustration workshops to coincide with the release of Concord and Conquest, which is again freely downloadable from the Archaeological Data Services website, written by the fantastic Dave Fell. To coincide with that, we're going to look at some of the different types of pot that you can illustrate. Yesterday we kind of looked at courseware, Roman courseware. Today we're going to have a look at different kinds of pottery. So we got some Mortaria, and it's not an elephant's trunk, it's a bit of amphora handle. So today we're going to be kind of focusing on those two. Again, we use the same kind of kit. We've got our rim chart, okay, we're going to be using this. We've got some gridded paper, ruler, profile gauge, different kinds of profile gauges, and dividers. Now remember what I said yesterday, you can use anything that'll take an accurate measurement, whether it's soldering wire, blue tack, you could even kind of wrap around, but be careful when you take it off. And it's just to get accurate measurements of these. Now, the first thing I'm going to be focusing on today is Mortaria. Now, from yesterday's video, you can see it's kind of different, okay? Mortaria bowls are kind of these vessels with prominent hooked or flanged rims, okay? Kind of like this. And it also has, hopefully you can see that grit embedded on the inner surface itself. Now, most of the forms suggest that they're used for grinding or mixing bowls, and a lot of examples show significant wear on the inner surface, which suggests kind of heavy grinding action on it. Now, they were originally produced from at least the 3rd century BC and exported widely across the Mediterranean from Italy. The earliest examples you get in Britain date from the mid-1st century in production in factories. Later on in the Midlands and the North, they started kind of the early 2nd century AD, and they're kind of seen as domestic kind of kitchenware. So what we're going to do, again, like yesterday, we're going to get our rim chart, and we're going to try and work out the radius of this. Again, we can kind of start off down here, and as we kind of push up, hopefully you can kind of see the circles are starting to kind of more or less match up. Now, if I turn it round, so I can see what I'm doing here, and we kind of push it gently up on the rim chart, you can kind of see here we have a measurement of 32 centimetres. So again, like yesterday, we're going to create the T-bar shape across the page. So this kind of thing, so you've got 16 one side, 16 on the other, and the line down the middle. Now once we've done that, again, we're going to use this kind of rocking technique that I showed yesterday. So hopefully you can see that. By rocking it, you can kind of see, because obviously we need to get the angle right. If you look at it there, you don't want it too steep or too shallow. So by placing it flat on the surface, gently rocking it, you can see here, I can get my finger under it, go the other way and I can get my finger under the side. So when it's flat, we use the profile gauge, and I always stamp it down, what I call blanking off, to get the pins straight. And then again, we gently ease it into the side of the Mortaria. So what we have here is just the flange lip, the outside view of the flange lip, okay? So we take that away, we have that there. Again, like yesterday, we're going to use this to place along the top of the T-bar and take our first measurement. So I'll be drawing that around. Okay, so once we have this measurement, okay, that's a starting point. It's a good starting point. What we now need to do is take a 2nd, 3rd and 4th measurement. So we have this edge here. So if we gently push in, hopefully you can see that there, if I take it out, we kind of have this underlip, which we already have a measurement for, and the kind of profile of the side of the vessel. Now by placing this on the marks that I've already made on the paper, I can then start to match all of that up. Once we've done this, once we've got this kind of outside edge along here, we need to take some measurements. We need to try and get this top edge in as well. But what I'm going to do is start off by kind of taking a measurement at the base where it's thicker, a measurement in the middle where it's a lot narrower, and a measurement kind of here across the top. So what we'll have is that kind of join the dots thing again. So Again, using dividers, you can use anything. You can use a ruler, blue tack, soldering wire. I'm taking a reading across the bottom, and I'm going to put a dot on the page. Then we're going to take one across the middle. Okay, hopefully you can see that. And again, this is the reading of the thickness of the wall of the vessel. And then, as I said, I'm going to take one through the centre of the top. Now these marks will help me line up the inside wall of the vessel. Okay, so we've got this external line drawn. Now we have kind of like a join the dots here. So again, by gently pushing the profile gauge on the inner side, you can kind of see the shape of it there, this kind of lip which appears. So by matching that up with the dots on the paper, we can then, hopefully you can see that, get a reading of the pot. So I've got the T-bar, so there's nothing on the other side at the moment. So you kind of have this form, hopefully you can kind of see that there, which should match up. Now again, like yesterday, what we're going to do is kind of flip the page over using the T-bar in the middle as the centre line to take a reading on the other side. Now again, if you're a student or if you're just kind of starting out, practice with kind of cups or pots or bowls in your house. It's the same. This is just a Roman bowl. You can kind of use any bowl you want. Just make sure you don't have any cereal or anything like that, otherwise it's going to get messy. So I've lined that up, and what I'm going to do now is trace on the other side. Now, take your time with this, because remember it has to be accurate. And we've taken the measurements, we've taken the readings out. Again, you're only tracing the outside of the vessel, not the inside. You don't need the internal edge on the right hand side. So hopefully you can kind of see, I've got the kind of outside marks. Now, what we also need to show on the Mortaria is on the left hand side, you've got this kind of thickness of the wall of the vessel. Now on the outside, what you're going to kind of see is this, okay? So you're not going to see underneath here. Whereas the left hand side, you'll kind of see where the fingers will be placed under to be able to lift it up. So again, by using a ruler, what we're going to do is line up the base of the rim and then the top of the rim itself. Now, what you'll have, hopefully you can see out there, this is the kind of the outside, so you can kind of see the rim here. You can't see the hidden bit. And on this side, you can kind of see the flanged rim, so where you get your finger of it. Now, one of the more important things with Mortaria to actually indicate when you're illustrating is the kind of grit on the inside. Obviously, because these are used in kitchens or cooking, they do get worn, okay, heavily worn away by kind of grinding itself. So what you need to do is show, just indicatively, okay, you don't have to kind of measure each piece of grit, to show the amount of grit. So some of them don't have a lot in, some of them are worn away quite significantly. This one, if you kind of, I don't know if you can hear that, you can kind of hear it's still quite gritty. So what we're doing, we're going to take a measurement of where the grit falls from the inside of the lip, so the top edge. And then I'm going to use the T-bar, and we're going to line that up. But then we're going to start to just eye in the grit itself. Now, again, take your time. These don't need to be 100% accurate. Again, it's just indicative of what's actually in the vessel itself. You're not going to spend too much time kind of measuring every single piece of grit. It would take forever. So hopefully you can kind of see now we have the outside of the vessel, which is kind of this. And on the other side, we kind of have an internal view of the pot itself. Now, that's a very, very quick Mortaria drawing itself. Hopefully that was clear. But I'm going to move on today because we're going to try and get another form of pot in. Amphora. I do like amphora, okay? These are kind of pottery containers used for storage and transport. They're important to archaeologists as they offer a reflection of the large-scale movement of goods, mainly foodstuffs, within the ancient world. Many are large and two-handled. Let me show you. Like this. That's very heavy. And they have a rounded spike on the base to kind of put into the ground. They're not seen as a typological category on their own, but kind of seen as kind of functional grouping, confined to vessels that have a stopper or a seal on the top, and transported with contents such as olive oil, fish oil, wine inside of them themselves. Now, this is pretty kind of straightforward to illustrate. Now, you need a set square for this. And what you're going to do is place it gently on the paper. And what you would do is use the set square and put a dot. Now, you can do as many as you want, as close together as you want. Obviously, the more dots you put round, the tighter the accuracy is going to be. We don't just kind of trace around them, because obviously when you've got your pencil, if you have the set square there, you can kind of take a very accurate mark. Pencils themselves, if you go in at an angle that way, it's going to kind of cause some shift in kind of the accuracy itself. So let me kind of show you here. So if you put your pencil in like that, you can see it's underneath, straight down, out. So obviously with the set square coming straight down, it gives you a very accurate reading. Now, a lot of the Amphora vessels and Mortaria have maker's stamps on them. I don't know if you can see that there. Okay, now this is really important. Now this is what I'm going to show you. I'm not actually going to show you the illustrating of this. It should be kind of hopefully straightforward now as what you do. You just kind of record the handle and you record the kind of wall thickness of the vessel, flip it over like the other ones. Now, to do this, you're going to need cigarette papers or tissue paper, which come in giant sheets that you can just cut off the piece you need. Now, a bit like Blue Peter, I've got one, here's one I made earlier. I've cut it off, and what we're going to do is place it gently over the stamp. Now, I have very warm hands, and by placing it on, it starts to kind of just take the shape and form of the stamp kind of that we need. We also need a graphite pencil. Now what I'm going to do is create a little black dot on some paper, hopefully you can see that, and then I'm going to use my thumb and pick up some of the graphite on there. Now by using my thumb, I'm going to gently push onto the tracing surface itself. Now I'm going to keep it in the same direction all the time. I'm not going to go backwards and forwards, because what you'll get is a shift. Hopefully you can kind of see that starting to come through there now. I'll add a bit more on. And what you're trying to do is pick up the stamp and all of the detail to scan in and use for publication. So hopefully you can see this got the stamp on there, the maker's stamp. Now, traditionally, these used to be kind of drawn as line drawings, but now, based on a publication from Oxford University, Samian, Mortaria stamps and Amphora stamps, we just use the rubbings and scanning. Now, the reason for this is to stop the illustrator kind of not making things up, but kind of saying what's not there. So by just taking a rubbing itself and scanning it in, using Photoshop to darken it up a bit, you will get a very accurate rubbing of a stamp itself. Now, it takes a while, it takes practice, and you get very dirty thumbs, but it's worthwhile because you can kind of get the stamps. Now, I did one earlier, and I always do several versions of the same stamp just to make sure that I've got all the information I need, because obviously, again, once this is taken away from me, I don't have the pot in front of me or the handle in front of me itself to actually look at the stamp. I need to have several bits of reference material that will go with the illustration of this pot itself. So again, pottery is really important when it comes to archaeological illustration, simply because it kind of gives us huge amounts of information about, you can date the site, the potter's marks themselves, the stamps, you can kind of date within a kind of life cycle of when the factories were working. And obviously when you find a piece like this on a site, it will help us kind of accurately date the site within 10 years. So pottery is exceptionally important when it comes to archaeology and archaeological illustration, and it's the kind of bread and butter of what most archaeological illustrators do. You get tons and tons of pot. So again, thank you for joining me today. I hope this has been useful. Again, leave some comments, please. I'll stay online again for a minute or two if anyone does have any questions. And I'll hopefully see you tomorrow when we'll be looking at some small finds, how you kind of start to illustrate the small finds, why you need to scale them up to add the detail in. But we'll be doing small finds over the next 3 days. So thank you very much for joining in, and hopefully see you tomorrow. Bye. Okay, I've got a few questions here. Would you edit the image of a stamp in illustrative software? No. What you would do is scan it in and just use Photoshop to darken it up. Not really going to manipulate what is there, because in the past when we have created line drawings from the actual rubbings themselves, a lot of specialists, not just me, kind of say that the information isn't necessarily 100% accurate, whereas because you've taken a rubbing, that's exactly what's on the pot itself, all kind of warts and all. So you would scan that in and use that itself. Hopefully that's useful. I did get asked yesterday what kind of pens I use to ink in. I was going to go into this tomorrow in a bit more detail, but I use rotary pens, okay? I've had these for about 30 years. I know, I don't look it. A rotary and rapidograph, okay? You can get isograph, they're slightly different. The rapidograph, you get disposable ink cartridges on them. The rapidograph, they get ink cartridges that you can top up, but it's quite messy. But I use those. There are different varieties out there, but these are the kind of pens of choice for me. So hopefully that's useful. Okay, another question here. It says, can you use ordinary blue tack? Yes. See if I can show you here quite quickly. I've got some blue tack. And what you'll do is roll it out like a sausage. Okay. And what you would do is very gently place it on the pot itself. Now, the problem that you've got with things like blue tack, like that, is that when you lift it off, although it gives you the profile, they do tend to kind of shift. So if you pull it, it's obviously not the shape. So you have to be very careful when using blue tack. Soldering wire is better because it's more manipulative. So you can kind of put the blue tack on there. As long as you're very careful, it will give you the same kind of shape that you need to trace around. I would prefer to use profile gauges. Obviously you can use the plastic ones, but the accuracy is not the same. Okay, as you can probably see there, the difference in kind of the pins themselves. Okay, the plastic ones are better for pottery because obviously you're not damaging as much, and obviously these are better. Okay, another question. Plasticine. Yeah, plasticine would work exactly the same. Anything that's going to take an accurate measurement, you can use. Okay, it doesn't have to be a profile gauge, although they're the kind of standard weapon of choice for illustrators. But I have used soldering wire in the past. I have used blue tack in the past, and as long as you kind of check the measurements, check the marks, and make sure that everything's accurate, then that's all you need. Okay, thanks for joining me. I'll see you tomorrow.